All right, everybody, happy Monday. Welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast. Coming to you guys live from the FingerLaceOne.com studios in Niagara Falls, New York. As expected, I guess. I am Paul Russo, joined, as always, by Kyle Evans. Kyle, happy Monday. How was your weekend?
It was awesome. A lot of sports on. Pretty much did that all weekend. A lot of betting, more betting, I should say. And yeah, it's been pretty good. It was a pretty good weekend.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, a lot to get to. Well, a lot and a little. It's really weird how, to me anyway, like we have our note sheet, right? And I'm sitting here and kind of I'm racking my brain a little bit. I'm sitting there there isn't actually a ton to dive into with really either the Yankees or the Mets. Really, be fair, I guess, in a way, the Red Wings and S-Mets as well, in a sense. But the stuff that there is, it's kind of deep in nature, in a way. So, plenty to get to, as always. But before we go on, can't thank our sponsors enough for today, which, as you can see on the screen, we have Dr. Jeffrey Halstead over in Canandaigua. He's been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. You can visit them online at CanandaiguaDentistry.com, or you can find them on Facebook and Instagram, and also Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. Ready for this, Kyle?
Yep.
You can visit Cicino's. They have multiple locations. Their original location, Waterloo. Their all-new, renovated location in Geneva, or at Del Lago Resort and Casino. Dine-in, take-out, delivery, catering, and banquets. You are online at Cicino's.com. Live, laugh, and eat well. It's the Italian way. Kyle, go-to pizza option for you. What are you getting? Cheese, pepperoni,
Pepperoni pizza.
Buffalo chicken? Chicken?
Pepperoni pizza every time.
Attaboy.
I guess considered basic. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that type of stuff.
I feel, hey, at least I'm not just a cheese person. I can't do. I mean, I can do it, but pepperoni adds a little bit more, and
sure, right. I'm a big ham and pineapple guy. Ooh. I'm a social anarchist. I love a solid Hawaiian pizza in a way, but whatever. Fight me. All right, let's dive in here. Yankees, they dropped their first series of the year, and
predictable.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you did predict it. I'm not going to sit here and run away from that fact. There's a lot to kind of unpack within this series in a way. I guess we'll start with the offense, right? I mean, and we were kind of talking about it, right, a little bit last week. But really, this week it kind of came into full effect, right? Just how really off the Yankees have kind of been. And let's start with the series itself and then go into the wider scope of it, right? So, they literally just not good the whole series. And you can tell, right, just by the run production, you don't have to dive deep too far. In outscored 13-5 in a 3-game series is not what the general populace even probably thought the Yankees were going to do within a series. You want to take a look at a maybe bigger scope of it within that sense. 3 runs or fewer in 8 of the last 10, 5-5 in that stretch. Just has not been good for the Yankees here the past 10 days or so. And before we get into the wider scope of it, I mean, it's not, these are games that, especially against Toronto, are important, right? Toronto's not going to be silent all year. They're going to be making noise. We'll get to, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s comments even, to help maybe stoke that fire in a way. But, it was a rough weekend to watch the offense go to work.
Yeah, they're very lucky to get one win out of that series. Easily could have been swept. The only reason they've gone 5-5 over that span is really because of the pitching, especially Garrett Cole, in that 10-game stretch. 2 really good performances. And then you got other guys that have chipped in with pretty good performances. The bullpen's been struggling at times, but for more times than not, they're keeping the Yankees in games too. So if say you had the pitching of the Pirates right now, and their offense was that bad, the Yankees probably would have gone much worse than 5-5, and it's not really just one or two guys that are struggling. It's like everyone, and they're not just getting hits. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not getting anything at all. It's a lot of strikeouts, very few walks. It's tough to watch right now.
Yeah, and it's weird because like you look at and. I had a chuckle in a way when Rizzo had the 9th inning home run last night because,
I hated it.
This is what I'm going to get at here in a minute. He has kind of been that guy here this opening part of the season where it's been quiet at the plate all day, and like the case it was last night or yesterday with them, right? It's the one that hits the home run, and he's done it before this season. That's why I'm not bringing it up, and it's like, instead of it being 6-0, it's 6-1 for the final. And I'm not saying it's empty calorie or anything like that, but it's one of those things where it's like, you couldn't have done this in the first inning. And look, I'm not, hitting the baseball's hard, but to quote Pete Rose, it's something that I kind of live by with it, right? It's a round ball and a round bat, and they tell you to hit it square.
Yeah, well, shout out to Rizzo quick.
Right.
He is hitting .327 over his last 15 games.
And if there's any
DJ.
positive, right, yeah.
DJ LeMahieu and Anthony Rizzo have been the only guys that have consistently hit the last 15 games.
Yeah, and I mean, DJ came up clutch, to be frank, Saturday, and especially given the fact that was a game that the Yankees had in hand, right? And a rare Wandy blown in this situation save, it was weird. Some of that collectively as a unit, baseball has been used to seeing the past really year. He's been one of the more stellar kind of bullpen guys in the quote-unquote high-leverage situations.
Yeah, kind of wasted Anthony Volpe's moment. They still won on DJ's walk-off, but, I thought that would be the difference in the game, and it would have been even more cool. But regardless, they got the win, and it's better than getting swept.
Yeah, might have missed Volpe's signature moment so far, potentially here.
Yep.
Yeah. Now let's take a look at it from that grander scheme of things here, and this is courtesy of Max Goodman on Twitter here as we look at the last 11 games, right? And we talked a little bit about how, like, in that stretch of the 10 games, but this is a much more grander scheme, right? We have the traditional stats in here. We have a little bit as well as the quote-unquote analytics and number stats all combined in, and both will tell you here in this situation that it has not been good for the Yankees, and it shows where they rank and how well they have been doing, right? A 200 batting average. That's the Mendoza line. That's dead last. That is not great. 30th, again, last in BABIP. OPS, bottom pretty much, right? Hits, although nice, bottom. Runs, bottom third. Same with RBIs. Home runs, congrats. You're in the upper third of things, but
a lot of solo shots.
Right, exactly. That's not where they need to be in. A WRC plus, again, lower third. It has not been good. I don't know exactly what it means to show here, and this is where I think we can kind of introduce this a little bit. I kind of threw it in the description a little bit, but we get done with the podcast last Thursday recording. And quietly, the Yankees kind of bring in Cole Calhoun on this minor league deal. I don't know if they're kind of in this early hunt of throwing stuff at the wall and kind of seeing what works.
They're desperate.
Clearly, Hicks isn't working. What's weird is throughout this stretch, and it's all relative, right? It's interesting to me, though, that, Connor Falefa's actually brought his average up over 100 points, albeit, he was at 0.67, and now it's at 1.76. But if there was, again, one of the brighter spots in the lineup, it's been IKF, oddly enough. I'm not too sure what Cole Calhoun kind of brings at this point. We know the type of player he is to a team. He's going to give you some home runs, but at the same token, it's
a lot of strikeouts.
There will be some strikeout, right? And not to go back to some of those stats, right? OPS kind of brings in the whole entire on-base slug and average, kind of puts it together. He doesn't get on base a ton. He doesn't walk a lot. I think it's one of those things where throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it will kind of stick.
Yeah, they're obsessed with just power guys. That seems like it's always a thing with the Yankees. They don't have a lot of just guys that get on base and make contact like DJ LeMahieu. Yeah, I think they're just desperate right now for outfielders. I mean, you look at Franchi Cordero, he got off to a pretty nice start, but he's 1 for his last 18, 8 for his last 43. He's doing nothing at the plate anymore. You look at Willie Calhoun, he's done nothing at the plate. Of course, Aaron Hicks has just been on the bench a lot because he doesn't do anything. And when you have Aaron Judge struggling and Giancarlo Stanton on the injured list, I mean, what do you kind of expect, with the offensive numbers? The numbers are really showing what they have. They didn't really do much in the offseason besides re-sign a few of their players. I think we kind of talked about it on this show that, they didn't really get better. They brought back the same team, and now they're dealing with a few injuries. Bader's close to coming back, but you still don't know what you're going to get from him. He didn't play a full year last year. He played 1 month at the end of the season.
Not even.
Yeah, it's just right now they're in a spot where there's so many unknowns, and I think they're desperate to just try to plug into anyone at this point.
Yeah, and it's weird because you look at Scranton right now, and they have some guys there that have had big league experience, right? The one that sticks out to me, and honestly, Jake Bauers. I mean, he's not what I would call a hot start, but I mean, for a guy who has major league experience, I'm kind of surprised they haven't given the in-house look yet in a way. Yep. I don't know. I'll turn it back over to you here though, because you talk about, say, a guy like Judge and a guy like Torres who kind of had started the year off really strong, right? Not as great here the past few days.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is 5 for his last 35. That's a 143 average with 15 strikeouts. Just watching his at bats, it seems like he's close. He's hit a few balls hard. Just missing on pitches a little bit. I think he'll definitely get going very soon. But then you look at Gleyber Torres. He had a hot start for like the first 2 weeks, but now he's 9 for his last 49 with a 184 average, and it kind of just looks like he's back to the 2022 Gleyber. And I know it's only April and there's a lot of time to change it around, but I mean, was that 2 week start a fluke? Is he going to go back to his 2022 Gleyber Torres? And if that's the case, his team is even in more trouble. When you don't have guys like Judge and Torres stepping up, you depend on the bottom of the order. And look at the bottom of the order. IKF doesn't play every day, but when he does play, seems like the only one contributing. Trevino hasn't really done a whole lot. Higashioka's done a little bit, but they're not getting enough throughout the lineup, and that's killing them right now.
Yeah, and and it's tough too, because I think, especially on the catcher side of thing, we know why Trevino and Higashioka are pretty much still on the roster. Well, not so much Trevino still on the roster side of things, right? But they're defense first catchers at the end of the day. Yep. Let's switch gears. Look at somebody on the pitching side of things, because we had this debate about it last week. Look, I'm not saying that I'm retracting what I said last week. I do think we should probably move away from Clark Schmidt in that rotation, but something I did realize really here fully, I think, yesterday in his start was, I don't know how much of it's actually on him, but the team, a.k.a. Boone and Blake, kind of waiting maybe too long to grab him. He had a career day, honestly, on the mound yesterday, start-wise, right? 8 strikeouts, gives up an earned run, but for the first 5 innings of work, he looked really good. And I don't know if that's just like the threshold thing at this point with him, but it seems to be, as he's built up the strength of it, right? He's gotten better deeper, but I don't know, to me it was yesterday, to me it was obvious. I wouldn't have left him out there for another inning, or at least to start the 6th. You know what I mean? Yeah,
the Anthony Volpe error really hurt at the beginning of the 6th inning. I think there was 1 out, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot who got on base, but then he should have pulled him out and not let him face Guerrero. Mm-hmm. And he did, and, of course that hurt. And then he leaves him in even longer to face a lefty, Dalton Varsho, who he struggled to pitch against, lefties all year. And Varsho takes him deep. It's like, Boone, what are you doing?
Right.
And then he was kind of asked about it after the game, and one of the reporters asked it, was somebody not ready in the bullpen in time for you to pull him there? And basically that's what it was. He started the inning off with a quick out, and then Volpe makes the error, and then things unraveled so quickly that somebody in the pen was not, ready in time, and that was Michael King. Mm. So, but yeah, he should have been. I don't know. I think I still would have let him start the 6 like they did, but you had to get someone up before then and pull him. Do not let him face Guerrero again.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thing with it. I think was yesterday was the example of. I think there was writing on the wall. I don't know what the deal is.
And then and then Boone was asked about why'd you keep him in, and this was his answer. He was dealing. Well, Boone, how many times have you pulled a pitcher when he has been dealing?
Yeah, that's a pretty BS response in my mind.
Yep.
Before we transition to looking ahead here, also with Rodon, we do have some news on him. What'd you make of Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s comments? For those who don't know, more or less said, he would never play for the Yankees. Said it was a family issue, and don't get me wrong, I think I'm more intrigued as the family portion of it because, I know this was slightly before your time a little bit, Kyle, but I grew up, I loved his dad. Vladimir Guerrero was one of my favorite players growing up. And I don't remember the Yankees ever really being in on him during his main free agency, which was between Montreal to the Angels. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that was the same year that the Yankees opted to bring in Gary Sheffield in 2004. So, I don't know the history there. I think a lot of people are freaking out for no reason on it. This isn't unprecedented what he said. The one that sticks out forever for me will be Ken Griffey Jr., saying that he would never play for the Yankees. And that's well documented and well, in my mind, needed from him, if you will, because of the way his father was treated by the Yankees. Especially in a very tumultuous period if you were a minority player on the Yankees. I don't think it goes without saying, and if you don't know, I do recommend a Google, but George Steinbrenner was not very high on Griffey Sr., Dave Winfield, and Ricky Henderson, among a couple other players, because, frankly, they were black and could be outspoken for the time. So it's worth a Google if you're into the side baseball history stuff. Anyway, I'm intrigued on your take on this. To me, it was such a non-issue in the grand scheme of it because of just, I think, the known history between certain players and their families to the Yankees throughout the years.
Yeah, I do not care at all about his comments. One thing I don't understand with him and Alek Manoah is how many times they have to mention the Yankees in their media.
The Manoah thing I don't understand. That's the one I don't understand, but...
Like, fine, you're on a podcast. Like, Manoah's on a podcast talking stuff about the Yankees. Fine, do with that. But it seems like the media is dragging it on more, and they love to bring... I just don't know why they bring up the Yankees so much. They haven't really beaten them much the last few years. I mean, they had a losing record against the Yankees last year. The Blue Jays went nowhere in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I just don't get why. I mean, the Yankees haven't either, so let's say that first. But I just don't get why. Like, you don't hear Yankee players talking, about the Blue Jays all the time. But it's like the Blue Jays are always talking. Alek Manoah's calling out Garrett Cole. It's like, why?
Well, I think part of it is certain news outlets just are going for whatever they know they can grab the headline of as, in that sense. The Blue Jays have been... And maybe this is a completely different discussion for a different day, but they've always fascinated me here the past 10 or so years, really, when it's kind of wild to me because, like, people loved jumping on Jose Bautista back in the day, but he was never, like, outspoken in that sense the way that, like, Manoah is about just going at teams. Bautista, frankly, let his play kind of do the talking, but he was always... for the most part, pretty respectful on other teams in terms of, like, talking, like, in the media kind of about them and stuff like that, outside of, I'd say, the obvious one that we all know in the Texas Rangers. But that stuff was really deep at the time, and I know, actually, there's still a lot of bad blood between players who were against each other at that point if they're still playing. It's just weird, and I don't know if maybe, and I don't have, like, maybe necessarily a problem with it, but it is kind of wild to me how, especially it's Manoah for me, not so much maybe Vlad Jr. in a way, because this is the first time that really I think of Vlad Jr. headline kind of stuck with it in that sense. But
It's just weird.
Yeah.
Even in the offseason, like, the Yankees are brought up. They have to talk about them. It's like, why do you continue to just talk about them? Like, I mean, what is there to say? Like, yeah, Garrett Cole might have been using stuff, but all pitchers use it.
Right.
Just, I don't know. I can't stand Alek Manoah. I think he's a pretty solid pitcher. He owns the Yankees, I'll admit that. I mean, again, he shut them down. But yeah, also, I don't know if you really, like, were watching the game. It was a Friday night when Greg Weissert hit Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, I was.
And then he just stares out at the mound forever. Was just walking up the line forever, staring at them. And then Rizzo chips in and says, "Just get to first."
Yeah.
Did you like what Rizzo said? What did you kind of think about that situation?
Well, the situation itself was strange because you could tell Wesser didn't mean to plunk him. I mean, he did the stereotypical thing pitchers kind of do, where they look away when they,
Yeah, and there was a
don't
guy
mean to
on
hit
in the
guy.
ninth
Yeah,
inning.
the whole plunking thing to me too is like, as a pitcher, and this is again a different discussion entirely, but you're gonna know if a pitcher's actually going at you.
Yeah, hit him in the elbow guard.
Yeah, I think that was maybe him knowing the fact that he made after the comments. It was probably going to be made a bigger deal of. Maybe he thought, again, it's a heated battle. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you this. I certainly have said things and done things competing that I would not do if just normal work life.
Yeah, I get staring out at the mound, but I mean, he really took his time and just kept staring. And I love that Rizzo chipped in. That was cool. Weisert's a younger guy too, and he's just backing up his teammate. Yeah. And he didn't say anything bad. He just said get to first base. And Rizzo has a point. He said after in his postgame, Rizzo's been hit the most over the last 4 or 5 years in the league. He's like, I understand, getting hit's not fun, but to sit there and do that when it was unintentional, you don't do that.
All right.
You don't show up another team because you think you got hit intentionally.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that portion of it as well. I mean, it's just it will be an interesting thing here to kind of see because, again, teams aren't going to be seeing each other as often anymore because everybody plays everybody now. And
yeah, they're in Toronto mid-May, I think.
So, yeah, who knows, right? Before we kind of move on looking ahead here, do want to spend a minute. Some positive news regarding Carlos Rodon. CT scan, he had a second one, came back positive, came back clean, was able to play some catch yesterday, and will continue a throwing program this week, which would mean a bullpen session. I think it's a big positive. I saw somebody tweeted in replies to this something about the effect of, you still won't be ready until June. I'm like, well, that's not...
In your post.
Yeah, it's not entirely accurate. If he's throwing, and obviously now it's not his elbow but his back that's the main concern here, he could still be back in about 3-ish weeks. That would put him back at that mid-May mark. Now, do I expect it to happen? Probably not. I don't think they're going to rush it, but to say he won't be back until June is just a bit outlandish in my mind,
Yeah.
But welcome positive news for the Yankees regarding Rodon.
We hope, Paul, until he throws, his next day and he feels more stuff. I mean, that's just the way it seems, the way it goes sometimes with this team. But, yeah, I mean, right now, it's positive. And Severino's the biggest thing. They really need him back right now. And hopefully he gets in rehab games, by the end of late this week or early next week. That would be huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's take a look here. Before we move on to the Mets, the Yankees are on the road this week. Begin tonight in Minnesota, 3 games. First pitch tonight, Monday's 7:40 first pitch. Obviously, they're in the central time zone there. Guy Johnny Brito gets a start against Sonny Gray. 2-0 on the year and a sub-1 ERA. We'll circle back to the pitching matchups here in a second once they get through them all. Tomorrow, 7:40 first pitch Tuesday on Yes or MLB Network, depending on where you are. Nestor Cortez 3-0 goes against young Joe Ryan, who is 4-0. And then Wednesday, 1:10 Herman against Kenta Maeda. It's interesting, the matchups for this series. I don't have a ton of, I guess, faith maybe that
they're in trouble.
Yeah. I think, the interesting one is the Wednesday matchup for a bunch of different reasons. But, Sonny Gray is having about as quietly as good as a season as he's ever had, at least out of the gate. If you don't know about Joe Ryan, you're going to know here.
Yeah, you faced him earlier this year, actually.
He's he's about as good a young pitcher in the game as there is, and he's in Minnesota and kind of keeping it to himself and doing it. Kenta Maeda's not looking like the Kenta Maeda of old. He's coming off injury. I don't know what's going on with him, but for me, I don't know about the Yankees in this series. I just don't. I don't have a good vibe. I think they drop it, but I think they at least get one and kind of salvage it somewhere. So that's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, Joe Ryan, 7 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts on April 13th. So that's problematic. And Sonny Gray, knowing that he was a former Yankee, he's been off to a great start. He'll probably shut them down tonight with the way the offense is going. So, yeah, I think they'll be lucky to grab one. The Twins' offense, they took the first 2 games of that 4-game series in the Bronx because they scored so many runs. Remember, they lit Johnny Brito up in the first inning. He pitches tonight. They still got a really good offense at times. So, yeah, I don't know. They might get swept.
Ooh.
They might get swept. Yeah, I'm going to say a sweep.
Wow.
And then I don't even know what's going to happen after that because they go to Texas for 4, and the Rangers are off to a hell of a start. So they might get buried. They're already 6 out of first place from the Rays.
Yeah.
So they better find a way to get going here.
All right, let's take a look at the Mets here. Bit of a better week, to say the least. It's interesting because it's like, they split their games in San Fran, and
then you look at their West
that's
Coast
whatever
trip together.
Right. But then you look at the grand scheme of it. And this is a Met team that we were kind of talking about a little bit how, things are kind of clicking here, but again, I think it's one of those where we have to take a look at the grander scheme of it here, and maybe we were undermining it and undervaluing it a little bit, but, for the Mets, really, 7-3 on this California trip. What they call a West Coast trip, but they were in California the whole time, so what difference does that make? 7-3. If 2 of those losses are against San Francisco, so be it. But this was something that, to me, they really needed to kind of maybe stick the flag in a little bit, right? I mean, they're against, barring what I can only describe to be not only a Christmas, but a Festivus and a Hanukkah and a Kwanzaa and a New Year and a Valentine's Day miracle. They won't be seeing Oakland in October. But, look, the Dodgers and the Giants are 2 teams that you could certainly see in postseason, and they handled business against the Dodgers, and to me they handled business against the Giants. Kind of one of those things where the offense, I don't think, was the question mark of this series. I thought it was the pitching, to be honest. And we'll get to one pitcher in particular who was really fantastic in a minute, but this could not have gone a better West Coast trip if the Mets had hoped for, I don't think.
Yeah, I was just trying to think back to Saturday. Yeah, it was David Peterson that struggled. Then last night, McGill gave up a season high in runs. So, yeah, they easily could have won these last 2 games, and then they would have been, 9-1 on the trip?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Especially, going out on the road for that long. It doesn't matter who they exactly played. Spending that time away from home and playing that well is very good. So, yeah, it's just funny how, 2 weeks ago, the Mets, I think, were 1 game above 500 or something, and everyone was, down on them. But I knew their offense was pretty good on paper, and they should get going, and they certainly have done that. And Pete Alonso's been absolutely insane. Just hitting home runs, it seems like every night. Already has 10, and the month's still going. Lindor's been good. Nimmo, how about that? Nimmo's road trip was insane.
Right.
So yeah, this team is good. We're losing Scherzer for those. The suspension already kicked in, didn't it?
Yeah, and this is something that obviously gets talked about a little bit here when we talk about the series this week. But one of the games for the Mets tomorrow specifically is TBA because that would have been Scherzer's spot in the rotation.
And it's already been how many days? Do you know? 4?
They go from the effective day. Yeah, it'd be 4, I think. Yeah.
So for a pitcher,
because it happened it happened Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. So we're 4 in. Today would be 5. Tomorrow would be 6.
See, so for a pitcher, 10 games is nothing. It's really
for a starter. It's nothing.
Yeah, for a position player, it's a little different. But yeah. So I think only one spot he'll they only need a starter for one spot? Because they don't have any off days coming up. I don't
Oh
think.
yeah, this been one, yeah.
Yep. So I guess it doesn't hurt them that bad.
Yeah,
Gives them more rest too.
kind of nuts. Yeah, kind of. It's weird how Peterson and Mago, the two guys who we kind of wondered what the Mets were going to do with them a little bit. They were the two struggle really for real, and I saw a lot of overreaction to the Peterson thing too. Look, has his starts been exactly where you hoped for this year? No. But this is the first time he's had this kind of ability to be a guy in the rotation type thing. Let him figure it out. Give him a second here. Get his breath. I saw one thing, even it was actually posted within the Mets website itself, where it's like, Peterson's rocky start raises questions again. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing here? And like, I don't know. If that's the only negative we're kind of talking about in a sense with the Mets right now, God bless you, because baseball is tough and it's a rocky sport in that sense. And if that's going to be the only negative that I'm going to really talk about within this, then so be it.
Yeah, I think they're in a good spot right now, and they're heading home for a series that they should win, as you're going to talk about coming up. And I don't know, I just think everything's going to be okay after all. Fans were a little worried in the first week or two, and there's no worrying. This team is going to win at least 90 games. I actually think over 95, but that's what I'm saying, at least 90. This team's very good. Braves might still win the division, though. The Braves are very good.
Half game back. The Mets are right now. Let's talk about a really awesome bright spot here. And that would be, personally, my guy, Joey Lucchesi, who first start in 2 years on Friday, and just lights out. 7 shutout innings, 2 walks, 9 Ks. But if you can tell up there, obviously, for the people watching, on the screen, 672 days. Man. And to come back, he's been rehabbing. Joey Fuego. And it's weird because I remember when he was with the Padres, came up with the Padres, and I was like, this kid's going to be good. It's weird calling him a kid when he's our age, but, it's one of those things in baseball where everybody's just a kid.
Yep.
And, gets hurt, needs Tommy John and a couple of different other arm issues, and takes this all to come back. And to have that moment, family with him, man, again. And this is a guy who, foreseeably, if you want to get down that Peterson rabbit hole or Mago rabbit hole, if he puts up numbers like this, and look, the Mets brought him in to be that 4th or 5th spot rotation guy. You're going to have a hard time telling him to kick rocks,
Yeah, one guy would be on their way out if he continues to do what he's doing. I think it was 1 run over 7 innings, right? If I remember right,
No, shutout.
Was it?
Yeah.
7 shutout innings?
Yep.
All right, I was thinking of somebody
I think
else.
it was like 2 hits, 2 they gave up. He was on it.
Okay, yeah, so he was cruising through that Giants lineup. I thought it was really impressive. Even though you're throwing, in simulated games and bullpens, it's still not the same. To be in your first game action and give the team that many innings against a major league team is unbelievable. And, I think his next start will be against the Braves, so that would be a pretty tough test for him with that lineup. So if he puts up numbers again like that, then I think he's definitely going to have to stay in the rotation.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I remember watching with the Padres. You could always tell. The stuff is just there. Just needed more run. Hopefully, this is the start of something very positive for him. Speaking of positives, Justin Verlander. Mets fans smile. Officially, we can say he's nearing his Met debut. He threw a simulated game in Port St. Lucie yesterday on Sunday. 43 pitches for 3 games. Looked great. So what's next for him? A rehab start on Friday with a minor league team in the Mets system, TBA. I don't know what or where or what team it's going to be with. I would imagine if he's in Port St. Lucie, they might just keep him down there and do it, but I don't know where the schedule is exactly. That's on me for falling short there.
I think it's going to be either that or Binghamton. I don't think Syracuse.
But, no, Syracuse is on the road this week.
Binghamton's home.
What's interesting is he is slated, if all goes well, He will debut next week against the Tigers. How about that? So,
Yep.
I mean, we talk about where people kind of go fall in this and everything. Verlander comes back. There's another spot in the rotation gone. But from the Mets, this is a good problem to have if he's coming back, especially more or less on the horizon as we speak.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how he does for the Mets. I'm sure he'll be a really, really strong and good pitcher like he was last year. Hopefully he stays healthy this time, because they really need him to stay healthy. If him and Scherzer stay healthy for a good part of the year, like I said, they're definitely winning at least 90 games. So yeah, it's good news for the Mets.
Mm-hmm. For the Mets, off day today, they're probably already back on the East Coast at this point, but Nationals await them starting tomorrow. 7:10 first pitch on SNY. I already mentioned for the Mets it'll be TBA, but for the Nationals it'll be Josiah Gray. Looking for his first win on the year. He's 0-4, but 3.74 ERA. Kind of tells you all you need to know about Washington as I go through this. Wednesday, 7:10 first pitch on SNY or MLB Network. Mackenzie Gore, he's 2-1 on the year against Kota Senga. And then Thursday, also 7:10, Trevor Williams against Joey Lucchesi. You're off by a day, Kyle. So,
Forgot the off day was.
frankly, it would be a very Met thing for them to drop one of these, but I see them getting a sweep. I can't imagine a way that they lose any of these games to the Nationals, to be quite honest. So I will go ahead and say the sweep to get out the brooms.
They're going to struggle against one of these starting pitchers.
Oh,
It's going to be Trevor Williams. And
Met legend.
yeah, Trevor Williams is going to have himself a game, and the Mets drop one game. Might not necessarily be that game, but they're going to drop one. So 2 of 3 for the Mets. All that matters is they keep winning series, and yeah, that's what I think will happen.
All right. Before we get out here, do want to talk about our minor league friends, Rochester and Syracuse. Rough end, what we'll call numerically, to the week for them. They both ended up dropping all their games post-Wednesday. Well, I guess for the S-Mets, it'd be post-Game 2 on Thursday because of the makeup game. But, yeah, dropping 5 of 6 is tough in these scenarios. It's kind of weird. It's so early in the season. With minor leagues, it's always tough to tell. But for me, it comes down, I think, to pitching again in both these teams' scenarios here. Especially in a way with the case of Syracuse. I mean, their offense is very good overall at this point. It's kind of hard not to say maybe finger point outright to the pitching portion of it. It's tougher with Rochester. Both offense and pitching are just struggling right now in the grand scheme of it. But their pitching was pretty good against Norfolk, to be completely honest with you, if you take a look at it. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a get-right type thing. It's tough because, especially on the Syracuse side of thing, you played Durham last week, and for the past decade, they've been one of, if not the top team in the AAA. And they still are this year. They're third in the standings right now. If it shows you any indication of how tight the International League is right now, Durham is in third, 1 full game back. Syracuse is 8th in the International League with 4.5 back. And you want to keep going down to Rochester, they're last, but they're 9 whole games back. But the top half is fairly tight right now still. So for Syracuse, it's easier, I think, to dissect than maybe Rochester, where it's just a little bit more of a clouded maybe mess, if you will, of just trying to figure out where can we get this right and where do we need to just improve outright to get this ship turned around.
Yeah, and inconsistent offense for Rochester. I just looked now, 3 runs or fewer in 4 of the 6 games. So really, I mean, last week they had a pretty good offensive series against Buffalo, and then Norfolk kind of shuts them down a little bit. So yeah, it just seems like offensive struggles and not consistent. The pitching is, could be better, but a lot of these games they were in for a while, and then you look at Syracuse, like you said, the offense is really good, and the pitching let them down. So kind of a little bit on the opposite ends. But Syracuse, I think, will be fine. Rochester, I don't know.
Yeah.
6-14 is tough. seems like they do this every year. They have these rough stretches, and it really buries them.
Yeah, Rochester returns home this week. They play St. Paul, the Saints. First time that what is now Minnesota's affiliate, the Twins return back to Rochester for the first time since the restructure. For Syracuse, on the road, it's a battle of honestly two of the oldest teams in professional baseball, or at least city-wise, as they play Toledo, the Mud Hens. So it'll be interesting because, there are a couple good players on kind of each of the teams. I know a guy in St. Paul might sound familiar, Ryan Lamare. So, just as an example. So it will be interesting. I know I'm going to try and get up to Rochester at some point this week for one of the games. So
The 11:05 game Wednesday.
Nah, I will not be going to Education Day. That's just I did go back in the day during high school, but not this time around. A bit tougher there. So now we'll take care of Concrete Jungle for today. As always, if you can't catch us live here on YouTube, you can catch up anytime on YouTube, Spotify, and all the fun stuff there. Kyle, anything fun coming up for you here in the next couple of days, or just kind of laying low?
Go Heat.
Okay, that works too.
Go Yankees. And,
Go Amherst? Well, that's Friday, though.
yeah, they're in trouble.
Go Crunch, baby.
But yeah, go Amherst. I'm an Amherst say over the Crunch.
Well, legally I have to say go Crunch, so go
Yeah.
Bolts.
True for you.
But,
And hopefully the NHL playoffs continue to be fun to watch.
Yeah. All right, everybody, so we will talk with everybody then on Thursday. We should be back to our 11 o'clock slot then, but if not, you'll be the first to know whenever we post that. So, excuse me, sorry about that. We'll talk to everybody on Thursday. Enjoy the week, everybody. We'll talk to everybody then.